All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everyone to the A.live podcast. This is season 2, episode 11, and we're nearing the end of the season. And I just want to throw out a disclaimer before we even get started to let everybody know that I am not an addiction specialist. I am not a professional by any means. So throw that disclaimer out there. All that I know how to do is stay clean one day at a time in a process of recovery through a 12-step program. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below. Show some love. We appreciate the viewers and everyone who participates to keep this podcast alive. So thank you very much. I want to divert the attention over to my man, Chris K. I'm excited to have you here tonight, buddy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How's everything going?
Dude, I'm just loving life, dude. Loving recovery and what it has done for me and the opportunities it has provided, and I'm just grateful and blessed to have you as a friend, dude. Grateful to have you on the podcast today. Of course, many people don't know that you were actually on season 1, and you were that missing episode. If you look back on season 1, there's 16 episodes, but there's really only 15 in the playlist on my YouTube channel, and that's because Chris K did one of the episodes, and a lot of people need to hear it, dude, and I just wanted to put it out there in the world. So, yeah, man, tell us about how'd you come into recovery? What was it like, your experience, getting here?
Just real quick, so you remember that first episode Gabe was on with us?
Yes.
He texted me, he's like, dude, you look small. So now I'm like trying not to flex.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, I just gotta say, recovery looks good on you, bro. Buffing it up, and yeah, put on those pounds, and yeah, you don't look small, bro.
So it's weird. So I grew up, the way that I grew up was kind of, I guess you want to say, it's like, it's sad to say, kind of normal these days. I had my father, but I had multiple mothers. You know what I'm saying? When I was born, my mom and dad broke up, and then it went from stepmom. First stepmom physically and mentally abused me. Second stepmom, she was cool. Third stepmom, she's who I call mom today. And my biological mother, I really didn't meet her until I was probably 10 or 12 years old. And then I would go see her every other summer, you know what I mean? And so growing up, I had a good childhood, I had everything I ever wanted, my dad owned his own construction company, and whenever I got suspended from school, I would go to work with him. And then I was about 15, it's like 15 or 16 years old, no, 15 years old, or like 14 or 15, something like that. My house was raided, and my dad was locked up for having a meth lab in the backyard. And right then, like, I automatically felt different, you know what I mean? The story my dad ran in the papers, everybody knew about him. I start my first year of high school, with everybody asking me, like, hey man, like, you guys are okay? I heard about your dad. And all I wanted to do was just deny it. Like, dude, that's not my dad. You know what I mean? 2 years later, I decided to live with my biological mother, who told me it was okay for me to smoke weed and drink. And that's what I did. Before then, bro, believe it or not, like, I was a big advocate for the DARE program. You know what I mean? Like, I was a DARE believer at heart, bro.
My man CK repping DARE.
I tell you, bro, like, I was big about, like, not smoking weed, and especially, like, seeing what happened with my dad.
Okay.
Like, that really traumatized me, and about any type of drugs. And so when my mom told me that a childhood friend of mine was smoking weed, I was like blown away. Like, I remember like crying and like, why is he doing this? And then my mom told me, like, it's not bad. All I had to hear. I just had to get some affirmation. Okay, well, the DARE program's obviously wrong. My mom told me it was okay.
Sure.
And so I started joining her, man. And my house became the party house, and my life skyrocketed from there.
So real quick, you were what age at this point?
I was 16.
Okay.
At this point.
Okay.
And and I started messing around with females, and I'm trying to make it child friendly, and
Sure.
but like my mom would have friends that wanted to do things also, and so I did them, and you might be thinking like, Chris, like they make videos of this stuff, you know what I mean? But that was my life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and what I would like tell you was that like it was awesome, but what it did was distort me from any type of healthy relationship till years later, till I understood what a healthy relationship was. For the longest time, like I grew up just knowing, like, just to use women, and that's it. And so then, like, the partying progressed, and then my senior year of high school, I ended up joining the military. At the time, my mom was being evicted out of her townhouse, townhouse, and went into the Army. 2.5 years later, I was being discharged out of the Army. And when I saw my mom, it wasn't, "Hey, Mom, how you been? I miss you." It was, "Mom, can you get me some Coke?"
Mm-hmm.
And, and I say this all the time, man. It's like, I don't know why other people use, man, but for me, like, it was a sense of identity. At the end, I was 110 pounds soaking wet. I'm 180 now, so you can imagine, like, dude, I was death walking, and I moved down to Anne Arundel County, and I went to my dad's house, and when I started living there, my dad made me pee in a cup, and I started going to this intensive outpatient program, and they sent me to a 12-step fellowship. And when I got there, like, I heard the sayings, I didn't want to get involved. I just wanted to get my sign slipped, or my slip signed, and that's it, bro. I just like fake it till you make it type thing.
Sure.
And believe, dude, I was faking it.
I've been there, man. Hey, I wanted to just touch on something. You mentioned like you used because of the identity, right? So like, I think a lot of people can relate to that in the sense of like, they just wanted to feel a part of something. So I know for me, I should just speak about myself, I wanted to feel a part of something. So using pot or whatever it was to fit in gave me a sense of like identity. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, whenever I used, man, like the person that I saw in the mirror, the person that I hated, because I hated myself, bro, and like I didn't see that anymore. I was confident now. Like, I could talk to whoever I wanted to, however I wanted to.
Yeah.
I thought I was the biggest dude in the block. Like I wasn't scared of nothing, and that made it really difficult for me to get clean.
Okay.
Because when I came into this 12-step fellowship, when I finally surrendered into it, my fear wasn't going back out. My fear was wondering who I was going to be clean.
Oh, right.
Because I saw people holding jobs for longer than 6 months. Where do they do that at, bro? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I saw people with smiles on their faces and being honest and talking about love and empathy and courage. Like, we didn't talk about that stuff, you know what I mean? And so my biggest fear was who would I see back in the mirror? And that's what scared me the most about getting clean.
Yeah, man. So like you were faking it till you were making it, right? And at that point, so you said you were going to meetings and just getting slip signed?
Yeah, that's it.
So at what point did you make that turn? So you mentioned at age 16 you were like smoking weed with your mom and so on and so forth, and then you moved on to going to meetings to get slip signed. So at what point did that happen in your life?
I was about 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
Discharged out of the military, couldn't hold a job. I was kicked out of the place I was staying at in Tawnytown. Apparently the cops were looking for me for using stolen debit cards or stolen credit cards. And so my best place was just to move down to my dad's, who was fresh out of lockup.
Gotcha. Sure, where you felt like felt it was easier to, live that lifestyle that you wanted to in that scenario. Is that like a correct assumption or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing was like, I remember my dad actually wanted me to move down here. And this is something I never share at meetings. This is actually the first time it's ever coming out of my mouth.
Wow.
I remember my dad calling me while I was in Tony Town, and he, I was honest with him, told him what was going on. He told me to come to his house right away. And for the first couple hours, I was like, no, like there's no way. But he kept on calling me like hour after hour after hour, like, hey, are you coming? Hey, are you coming? Hey, are you coming? Because like, looking back today, man, like he was scared. He was worried about me. And and so I came.
Good, man. And it, like, we have loved ones in our lives that have an understanding of what a healthy relationship is. And like, do you think that your dad had I'm sure he knew the life you were living, and he was worried about you, but how was your relationship with your dad different from your mom? Did you establish like a healthier idea of relationships at that point? Sure.
Me and my dad, though, we actually did not get close at all until about 5 or 6 years ago. So when I was about 25, 26.
Okay. Now, how long do you have clean now, Chris?
I'm coming up on 5 years.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So you and your dad's relationship started to strengthen when you got clean, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So how has your life progressed since those initial introductions to 12-step programs?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, no problem. I was asking, how has your life progressed? How has your life changed since you were initially introduced to those 12-step programs, just getting a slip signed?
Well, it didn't turn out good.
Okay.
After I no longer needed to get my slip signed, I did what I did best, was just to continue to use, bro. But this time, like, there was something attractive about being clean. Like, there was something attractive about people owning their own cars and smiling, being able to hold jobs, and I wanted that.
Of course.
So I kept on using, but I kept on going to these meetings. And I did that for over 6 months, claiming false clean time. Mm-hmm. I had a sponsor. I was doing step work, dishonest step work, obviously.
Sure.
I just couldn't get honest. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until like the pain got great enough to where like I walked into a meeting and got a 1 day, and that's where the process started for me. And it was tough, man.
Dude, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Like the program we're a part of talks about attraction over promotion, right? So yeah, it sounds like you had that experience where eventually the things that people had became attractive, and you desired or you longed for that, and that's what brought you to a more like a vigorous program, right? So because no one can tell us to get clean. No one can say, Chris, you're dying. Like, come on and get clean. Like, Narcotics Anonymous saved my life. It's not like someone can tell me that or whatever. Excuse me, I didn't mean to drop the N-bomb there. But any 12-step program, no one can tell us that it saved their life. We have to see how it's saving their life. We have to watch the program work in someone else's life to be able to come to that point of desire for ourselves. And that was my experience. So I think that attraction over rather than promotion really like embodies itself in the programs.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, like I truly believe, like, when people say like it's not for those who want it, it's for those who do it. Okay. And and that's my story. You know what I mean? What I would like to tell you is that once I finally got clean, because at this point in my life, I was living in a homeless shelter, and what I would like to tell you is that, once I got clean, everything started going great for my life. And, right. But like, that's not my story. Mm-hmm. you grow up with a set of rules that you lived by when you were using. You don't just stop. You know what I mean? And even if you get clean, like, you guys talked about, honesty and faith and trust and all that. I don't know anything about that.
Right. We could put the drugs down, but those character defects still remain, right? Even without the drugs.
Exactly. So like my entire first year, man, like I wasn't brushing my teeth, because I've been so long without doing it. You know what I mean? I was stealing from every single job that I worked for. I was stealing money out of my home group's basket. I was lying to people. Like all I knew how to be was a crackhead, and that's it. You know what I mean? And my first sponsor put it to me like this: take crack away from a crackhead, he's as clean as he's going to get. So what type of person do you want to be?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That hits home, because speaking from experience, like, I've been off drugs for two years and some change, and so like it wasn't until like the past 6 months where I really had like seen who's Aaron, and really starting to find out who I am, because like and I've said it a lot on this season. The first year for me was about having fun. The second year was about responsibility. So those two things are very distracting. Well, now here I am, like in my third year, it's starting to become more about, life on life's terms. Like, this is who I am. And if I want to get better, I have to do things to change who I am. Or I'm going to be that same dirtbag, scumbag, lying POS, just not using, hopefully, one day at a time, And I think that those character defects that turn into shortcomings, they can take a person back out, And so I have to work a 12-step program. I can't just, be part of a 12-step fellowship and not work the steps. So at what point in time does someone pick up the step work, right? When the pain gets great enough again in recovery, And so that's my experience. What has it been like for you? So what happened? I know, I just want you to share more of your story, man. I'm gonna shut up.
Well, it got to, my first year I was doing step work. You know what I mean? I did 1, 2, and 3. By the time I got to the 4th step, like that was the game changer for me.
Okay.
All the same way that I was living clean was the same exact way that I was living using. I was doing all the exact same things. And it wasn't until after I celebrated my first year clean, that's when it really dawned on me. Like I remember after my first year anniversary, I pulled over into a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot that was closed. And I remember calling 3 people on my phone and crying because I didn't know how to consistently brush my teeth on a consistent basis. And I needed help with that. And like, that's where it started for me. And so like, the further that I got into my steps, the more experience that I relied on people, and like also like when I got into my 4th step, like it's crazy because like, I had some stuff from my past get brought up into the present, and, and it hurt a lot of people who surrounded me, you know what I mean? It hurt a lot of my family, and, I don't really want to share it, but it just trust and believe, like it was stuff that really hurt my family, and caused some damage there, and this is clean, but this is stuff that happened years ago, but it was right on my 4 steps. It was like right where I was, what they say, it was like you're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's so true. It always rains truth in my process, man.
It's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And so I dove into the step work, and my life started getting better, and I was able to keep a job. I ended up getting an apartment. I had a girlfriend. We had a dog. All this good stuff. By my 3rd year clean, me and that girl had broken up. She took the dog with her. 3.5 years clean. My mom died as a direct result of using. and just to fast forward, man, like a year later, from that 3.5 to 4.5 years, man, like, it took a toll on me. And, I had a couple of friends who thought that they wanted to go back out. And so I followed suit, man. And I stopped getting honest. I stopped hanging out with people in recovery, started going to bars, and I would justify them like, I'm not drinking, I'm fine, you know what I mean? But eventually, like, I did pick up that drink, and I would justify it by saying, like, it's a drink, it's not like smoking a rock, I'm fine, right? But it might as well have been, because the consequences were exactly the same. Because as soon as I started drinking, I started stealing from my job and I got fired. At this point I was living at a place that was pretty much like a frat house, and my car was being repossessed 2 months later. And I was on the verge of being homeless again. But because I'm caught back up in this disease, it's that bad. And I stayed out there for 7 months, 7 more months until somebody in the rooms gave me a job working for him. And, he started taking me to a 1 o'clock meeting every single day until I finally got clean again.
Nice, dude.
And 4.5, here I am.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I know a lot of things have happened in between that time. You shared about a lot of stuff, but I know from being your friend over the past couple of years, like, you have overcome milestones, man. And you really, like, I mean, this is the thing that I feel like I expect to hear you share when you share your story, but like, you left it out. But I want to, like, hone in on it real quick, because it's such of course. So just, yeah, I want to let you share it, but, like, dude, I have so many follow-up questions, because I know your life and the way that you had to, like, lived your life had changed dramatically, and you had to reevaluate what you're grateful for, and, like, there's all this stuff, I'm sure. Like, talk about it, man. Let's hear this.
So when I got clean again, like, it was tough. You know what I mean? I didn't want to be in meetings, but I had to. I knew that if not, like, I'd be absolutely miserable again. At this point, like, I hated myself. So I kept on going to these meetings, and I would do anything it took to get kicked out. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I would call people during the meetings. There was one meeting where I was throwing chairs at somebody, and that did get kicked out of. And but I swear, man, this is crazy. This is, for me, like, how God works. So, like, as soon as I got kicked out of the meeting, I called my sponsor up. I was like, Andy, this is what happened. And he's like, dude, get to another meeting right now. So, like, I go to this other meeting. It already done started. And as soon as I walked in this meeting, the speaker stopped sharing. And he looked at me. He's like, you know what? This is the only place where you can act like a effing fool, and people keep telling you to keep coming back.
Yeah, man. And that's so the truth. Like, that's crazy, man. So the chaos in your life clean, I got you kicked out of a meeting. But let me ask, Chris, why were you, like, determined? The way you shared about it, it sounded like you were determined to be kicked out of the meeting. What was that about?
Well, see, I hated myself because I thought I had my shot here, and I expected that people didn't want me around. And this is all my total self-centeredness fear. Like, we talk about, like, this total self-centeredness around here. And, like, for me, like, that was my total self-centered fear, that, like, I had my shot. I'm not worthy of a second shot. I had my chance and I blew it. Why do I have a second chance? And, what it really was, it was like a poor me. What it really was, it was a cry for help.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, let's get to the exact nature. Come on, Chris.
And instill attention, and I just wanted somebody to reach out and say, hey, it's going to be okay.
Okay.
And that was my way of asking for help.
Okay. Yeah, man, because it's really humbling to actually ask for help, right? Ask another man for help, right? And that seems like a interesting way to navigate to get to that question, acting out, for attention to show
100%.
it's like you were showing off your defects so that someone would pull you up on it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then once you had their attention, you could almost like tell them how you're really feeling, right?
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. I need somebody just to give me a hug and say it's going to be okay. Just to know that I wasn't the only one experiencing these feelings inside. And I think deep down I knew that. I just wanted somebody to reach out and help. And I think because I hated myself so much, I didn't think I was worthy of it. So
yeah, man, we beat ourselves up. We're our own worst critics, man. And like I have that same experience. Like even just during this, coronavirus lockdown, just getting in my head and beating myself up and telling myself like I'm worse than I actually am, and I just gotta give myself a break, right? Like what is and I'm telling you what, Chris, like I'm ready for a hug, no homo, but I need to hug another man right now, because it's been a while, and I just need to.
Hey, bro, memorial.
Yeah, man. Like I look forward to seeing you, dude.
So like when I came in, like I got a new sponsor. I started doing step work with that guy, and I was living at my family's house at this point. I ended up buying a car. It wasn't much of a car, but it was my car,
Right.
I started working for a new construction company. Life started getting good again, I started liking who I was and made some awesome friends along the way.
At what point in your recovery are you talking about here? Like how long were you clean?
At this point, I had anywhere from 4 to about 7 months.
Okay. So you were within your first year. Okay.
Yeah.
Things were starting to look up for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything's starting to go pretty good. And then 7.5 months clean, I was working, and it was the day after Labor Day, I think. And I was working on a house and was up on the roof, and I slipped and I fell, and I grabbed on these people's gutters, and I was afraid that I was going to rip these gutters off the house. And I looked down, and it didn't look that far, and so I dropped, expecting just to land on my feet and be okay. Well, what had happened was I landed on my feet, and the vibration shot up, blew out my lower back, paralyzing me instantly from the waist down. And I remember being on the ground, and I'm not really processing what happened. I remember the worker who was up on the roof came down, and he's like, "Where's your cell phone?" I showed him, and all I wanted to do was like get this rock off my back. And I'm like, I'm trying to roll over, and he's like, "Dude, don't move." And so he called 911. I was like, "Hey, call my dad." And this is where me and my dad start getting really close. So like I was like, call my dad, and called him, and so I was flown to shock trauma. They did their I had my surgery. I had a back fusion done, and I ended up puncturing a lung also, and so they had to like tear out some ribs, and to get to it, drained out my lung. It was rough, bro. And then after my surgery, like, my friends were there. You know what I mean? Like, my best friend was there. Can I call him out by name?
Sure.
My best friend Gabe was there, and my sponsor was there, my family were there, and like, my dad was there. My dad was there all the time, man. And like, it was like a couple days afterwards, the doctors were telling Brian and Helen and Emily that like don't get his hopes up. Like, there's no guarantee of him ever walking again.
Wow, yeah. Man. So at that point, and what was going through your head, man? Like, because at this point, like things were just starting to look up for you. You were just starting to get your life together, and then you get into this accident, and you get this dreadful news that you're not going to be able to walk again. What was your first thought? Like,
honestly, I didn't really have too much of a thought. They gave me so much morphine that like, I'm sure I couldn't really what was going on.
Sure.
And plus, with my friends being there, it was easy to not think about anything. Gabe being Gabe, making jokes at events, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's what I didn't need anybody to feel sorry for me. I needed somebody to make me feel a part of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's exactly what he did. And so my family, absolutely loves him. So like he can say whatever and gets away. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it wasn't until I got shipped off to New Jersey when it really hit home. I went to an inpatient rehabilitation center in New Jersey, and the very first day there, I meet my physical therapist and my occupational therapist, and they're doing all these like tests on me, and they're like, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you feel this? Can you do this?" And that's when it hit. I was like, "Dude, I can't feel anything. Like I can't do anything." I remember wheeling myself back to my room, and I latched on to my dad, and I started bawling my eyes out. And at this point, man, bro, trust and believe, like I didn't want to use, like I didn't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like it. I can't even imagine, and I think most people listening can't even comprehend that kind of news delivered, This was going to affect your life for the rest of your life, as the doctor put it, So,
yeah.
And I think shortly after this happened, I don't know exactly. Do you know what month this was that this happened, or what season you were in? Was it like springtime?
September, so fall.
Okay. So I think it was maybe, man, it must have been the year after that is when I met you.
Yeah.
I don't know. How long were you in a wheelchair for?
Well, I was up at this treatment center for about 4 months.
Okay.
I want to say it was like 4 or 5 months, something like that. I came back in around December, I think, and then the end of December. No, I forget. I was up there for a couple months, so it was it was the following year when we met.
Yeah, it must have been because it was at the Hunt Valley Convention, Free State Region Convention, NA, and because I remember seeing you in a wheelchair, and I remember like talking to some of our friends and hearing briefly about your story through them before meeting you, and then seeing you roll up in the wheelchair, thinking to myself that must be the man, the myth, and the legend, Chris K. And sure enough, like that's when we met, and our friendship has developed over the years through another mutual friend. We've gotten to spend a lot of time together, travel the country. I've seen you bring step work on a plane. I've seen you, bring step work to. I remember sleeping on the couch covered in princess blankets, and talking about the future and what, when you're gonna be able to walk again, and seeing you be able to step foot on your own 2 feet and take those first couple like big moments, like it's been amazing. And like, what's that experience been like for you, man? And
it's unreal, bro. It's unreal. So like, and as much as I hate talking about this, I also love it at the same time because it takes me back, because sometimes I can forget how it was. Do you know what I mean? So like I was up at this rehabilitation place, and I remember this woman in the program has 30 years. She called me up. She's like, "Chris, when's the last time you prayed?" I said, I have no idea. You know what I mean? And she's like, "Well, can I say a prayer for you?" So I was like, "Sure." So she says this like really sweet, serene, very spiritual prayer, and I'm broken inside, you know what I mean? So she's bawling, I'm bawling, and she said, "Now it's your turn." She's like, "Whatever you do, just be honest." And at this point, man, like I had no relationship with God, or a higher power, or whatever, you know what I mean? I didn't want any type of relationship because that's who I tended to blame for every bad thing that happened in my life. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And she's like, just be honest. So I was like, all right. So like I started praying and I started cussing God out, calling him every single name in the book. And, and what I was expecting her to say was like, that's not how you pray. But what she said was good. Now keep saying that every single day. And it's weird because like from that first prayer, like I started feeling a little bit better inside, just to release all of this pain off my chest, you know what I mean? And so I started saying this prayer, and about like a couple weeks later, I was laying in my hospital bed, and I saw my big toe move. Right then and there, bro. Like I learned what faith was, because like I remember seeing it. And I remember calling my dad over, and my dad's still with me at this point. You know what I mean? Like, my dad was up there with me all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was there with me. And so, like, on top of, like, me, learning how to deal with this process, you know what I mean? I'm also in a process of developing a loving relationship with my father, And so, like, I remember calling my dad over. I'm like, Dad, look at this, look at this. It was just a little twitch. Well, like right then, I had hope. I was like, Dad, I'm going to walk again, and that's all it took. Like, there was no telling me that I wouldn't be able to do anything. And after that happened, like, dude, my physical therapy shot forward. You know what I mean? My whole behavior changed. I remember calling my sponsor up. I was like, Mike, this what happened. And he was happy. But what he said was, good, now that you're feeling better, it's your time to help somebody else out. Because, like, the process of recovery doesn't stop just because something happened to you, just because you're going through something. Now, I truly believe that, like, if I have the ability to help somebody, I have the responsibility to help somebody.
Dude, that's a powerful message right there. Oh, COVID-19. I'm just kidding. Bless you, dude. Bless you. So, dude, what a powerful message, what a powerful story. And experience, and I can only imagine the joy that your father felt, the hope that you felt, and just the sense of relief that probably overcame you, like, man, dude, I mean, I get chills every time you tell that story, and I've heard the story, I don't know, numerous amounts of times, and
it's absolutely crazy, bro. It's absolutely crazy, and like, what the craziest part is, like, the walking part was awesome. You know what I mean? Because, like, I started from a wheelchair, I went to a walker, then I went to a cane, and then I went to this, like, huge brace that went all the way up my thigh. Like, today, I just use the AFL, which is, like, an ankle brace. You know what I mean? And that part's cool, but, like, what's even cooler is, like, the process of how it went. You know what
man.
I mean? Like,
talk about that. I just want to say real quick before you get any more into it, like, I've seen this man snowboard, right? I've seen you do all kinds of crazy stuff since you've been out of the wheelchair, and the doctor telling you that you weren't going to walk again, man. And like, I get emotional to think about that process and what it's like for you. Like, I'm just so happy for you, dude. I'm so happy you've been able to experience these things, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, dude.
It's crazy because, like, when I came back home, I started going back to meetings, and, and I was the only person in the wheelchair, and I was feeling different, you know what I mean? But I was still going to physical therapy at this point in Baltimore, and it got to a point, man, where I was like, dude, there's got to be more. I can't work right now. I'm doing physical therapy, I'm going to meetings, but I got to do more. So I decided to go get my degree. You know what I mean? And I started going to college in a wheelchair. And during that point, you know what I mean? I graduated from a wheelchair, started using a walker. And then Kennedy Krieger, where I went to physical therapy at, they were doing a 1.5 mile thing, you know what I mean? And it was to raise money. And so, like, I did that, and a lot of people, man, donated, and I was able to raise, like, $2,900 for it. And, so I had a lot of sponsors for the race, and, I ended up walking, the 2.5 miles, whatever it was, and, it was crazy, man.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and then school was happening, man. I started in a wheelchair, and I ended up graduating walking the stage.
Amazing, dude.
And when that happened, I saw that this process isn't just about me, because there were professors there who I still talk to today that like saw me in my process every step of the way. There are students there who I still talk to today that saw me throughout this whole process too. So like it started showing me like just because something happens to me doesn't always just affect me, And it was just a really cool process seeing that. And so since then, man, like, I've just been I never want to just stay complacent. You know what I mean? Snowboarding, you talked about earlier, that was a big thing for me. So I wanted to go snowboarding again, and so I did. And I wanted to go skydiving, and so I did. You know what I mean? And like I didn't want my limitations to hold me down, bro. And it's been an absolutely crazy journey so far.
Yeah, man. The limitations you're speaking about, like these were just at this point, these were limitations of the mind. Like these weren't physically out of the question, So it's amazing that you didn't let the little mental hurdles stop you, that you just continue to push forward, get through the physical therapy, get out of the leg brace, get out of the wheelchair, and just put literally. This is an example of one man putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward, right? I mean, yeah, it sounds funny, it sounds a little cliche, but it's the truth, man. Like you've really been through hell and back, and we can't let our limitations of the mind hold us back from doing the things that we want to do in life, and that's just an example.
Absolutely. I believe that 100%, bro. And, and for me, like I'm a big goal setter now, and this only started like because of my injury. And so, I decided to go on to my next college, get my bachelor's degree. So I did. And then, so between going to meetings, I had a new sponsor at this point. I had friends and I had other goals that I wanted to accomplish, you know what I mean? And so I set out to get them. And today, I have 4.5 years clean. I have one more semester left to graduate with my bachelor's degree. And bro, check this out. I'm about to graduate something cum laude, something like summa cum laude or something like that.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say.
Official, bro.
That's dope, dude.
Yeah. And like, and today, I used to hate this cliche. It's like, my life is beyond my wildest dreams. I used to hate it because it was like, dude, if you used like I used, there's no way your life could be beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah.
But like, it really is. Like, I live a simplistic life today.
Yeah, man, keeping it simple, and I see that, from us keeping in communication and contact with one another. I see how you like to keep it simple, man, and just live one day at a time. And I kind of want to just talk about the school real quick because, are you still doing classes? And what has that been like? You're not going to campus and doing them anymore, obviously.
Not anymore. Not since this old COVID-19 thing. Now it's online classes.
Yeah, and how have you been able to adjust to that? What's that been like?
It's been cool.
Okay.
I work full time now. I'm in the field exactly where I wanted to be. I'm a project engineer today. So I'm still in the construction field. I do online classes, and so I mean it's nice because in my house, like I have my own office. You know what I mean? So after work, I stay in my office and I do my schoolwork until my fiance comes home, and then I spend time with her and the dogs. you know.
Yeah,
Um,
man. So let's talk about that. You're a homeowner now, man. You're a
yeah,
project engineer,
yeah,
in the construction field, something that you've wanted to do. I mean, you're wrapping up the last semester of school. You're walking. You're having all these amazing experiences, man, and just like for the addict uh that just didn't know how to get one day clean, you've come an exponential way. Like you've made leaps and bounds in your recovery, man. And so one of the cooler things that you've been able to do recently is what I want you to tell everybody. I mean, I've seen
I
you become a man, dude, and you recently did something.
yeah, I got engaged.
Congratulations, man.
It's crazy because like when this first accident happened, like I was worried about not walking again, but like truthfully, I was afraid that no woman out there was ever going to love me.
Look, and I'm just gonna stop you right there because I remember when we were sleeping over that one night. I think we were taking a trip the next day, and we were laying on a couch, um, and we had princess blankets and Snow White
Yeah,
blankets on us. And I remember you talking about like, you know, uh, having sexual experiences when you were paralyzed, and forgive me if this is beyond like your comfortability for sharing, but I remember you talk.
right.
It's getting hot in here. I remember you. That was a concern for you, and now you're getting married, dude. Like,
Yeah,
congratulations, bro.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
and it's crazy. I luckily like I found the right one, and she is the one. She's amazing,
That's awesome.
and it's cool that like I have such a great supporter. And still today, like it's tough. Like I have my limitations. Like I can't run.
Mm.
So I have two dogs. So Alex does the running with them. Like when we take them to dog park or to the open field, like Alex does the running with them. Um, I can't run. So like there's still stuff that like that affects me today.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it still gets tough, you know what I mean? But like, dude, you know, I can't have everything, you know what I mean? And I can't have everything I want. So like, I learned to like, you know what? Like, if it's something I can't change, leave it alone, man. Like,
Mm.
if the more that I let it fester and bother me, the more miserable I'm going to I'm going to get. So like, I need to be able to choose my own level of happiness.
Mm.
And for me to be happy is for me to stop sweating the stuff. You know what I mean? Whether big or small. Like we say, like, stop sweating the small stuff. Dude, stop sweating the big stuff.
Yeah, man. That's important. Like I get a valuable lesson of you sharing that. I appreciate you saying that, because I have to remind myself the same thing. But to be honest, I haven't thought of it in that perspective in a, in a long time. Like, stop sweating. Just like
That's it,
things that are
bro.
beyond your control, just let it go. That's really just practicing step one. We're powerless, right?
That's it. But also, like, I think the coolest thing is like, when you're able to let stuff go and just be as it is, like the amount of freedom you have from it. See, because like me, I want to control every situation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If I was to base my way of thinking, like when I was still in the wheelchair, like dude, I would have been miserable, and I probably wouldn't have gotten so much growth have I, that I've gotten so far. If I thought like, oh, this is how my life's going to turn out, this is how it's going to be, and I want to wallow in self pity because I can't change anything. You know what I mean? Like, no, dude, just like stop. Just stay in the moment and let it be what it is. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, dude, like, because you never know what's going to unfold. You never know what's going
Never
to
know.
unfold.
Never
So,
know.
like, you just keep on trucking, bro. You know
That's
what I mean?
right. I mean, there's been experiences in my life and my recovery that have just blown my own mind. And like honestly, going through them, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But looking back and comparing things to where I came from is really what makes me grateful for where I am today. Just the little things. Just as I shouldn't let the little things bother me, it's the little things that make this process so worth it. Um,
That's it, man.
So, man, look, Chris, I'm grateful for you, brother, and I love you, dude. And I think you have a bright future ahead of you, man. Like I consider you a great friend. I consider you a vital part of my network. Really, I do.
Aaron, you're going to be part of my wedding, bro.
Dude,
Like, of course,
I'm so
man.
honored, dude. I'm so honored because, and we talked about this a little bit before the podcast, and forgive me, I'm getting a little emotional because I come from a place of, being in the wedding industry and DJing weddings for years and watching people get married that I know, friends and family members. And look, dude, I DJed my brother's wedding, right? So it was like, no, I was in the wedding, of course, I was part of it, but I was also DJing it. So like, I don't want to play both roles, man. I just want to be a part of my brother's wedding and celebrate it. And you're my brother too, man. And like, I'm so glad that I can be part of my brother's wedding. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
I'm grateful, bro. Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. And that was the coolest thing, man. It's like, cause I'm all about enjoying life, you know what I mean? And like, that was me and Alex's talk. I was like, dude, like, yeah, it would be cool to have Aaron DJ, but I was like, no, forget that. Like, let him enjoy himself.
My man.
You know what I mean? We'll hire
Man, that's awesome, dude.
In the world to me, bro.
Dude, I appreciate it, Chris. And look, dude, I remember sort of like having a short discussion about this, because I know it's like maybe taboo for a recovering addict to have alcohol at his wedding. What is your take on that? Because as far as I remember, you said there's going to be alcohol served at your wedding, right?
Yeah. So it is an open bar wedding, and well, one, the venue didn't let us choose. But two, like for me and my fiance, like we kind of agreed with the same stance. Like I don't care if other people drink.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That doesn't really bother me. Let them do them. You know what I mean? Let them enjoy themselves. I'm not going to deny if that's how they have fun. Let them have fun. You know what I mean? For me, it doesn't matter as long as I know I'm not going to drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so yeah, it doesn't really bother me too much. And just like I actually just had a talk with this with another sponsor of mine tonight about this. Like, for me, like being in the industry I'm at, like a lot of the events are hosted at bars and stuff like that for like celebrations and different type of events. And I go to the events, though I always say it's a level of honesty. And it's very hard to find this level of honesty. But if I get to a point where I'm like, no, I don't really feel comfortable with it, or if I think even for a second that there's some sort of reservation in me saying, it might be all right, like I won't go. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or I'll go and then I'll leave early. The coolest thing is like today, I have enough growth in me to be able to set my own boundaries. Mm-hmm. I keep recovery at my forefront, and sometimes it's harder on some days than others, but reality is like, that's why I have other people for. I never want to think that I can do this thing alone. Like, that's why I have you. That's why I have Gabe. That's why I have my fiance. That's why I have my sponsors. That's why I have my sponsees. You know what I mean? And my other friends. You know what I mean? Dan and, Basil and all those people. It's cool. Like, I have people who I can call to bounce things off of because my way of thinking is not always right. And so, the biggest thing is, like, no matter how great my life gets, I need to always remember, like, how I got here and why I'm here today, and, like, to always keep it in the forefront. So, like, as far as, like, the alcohol and stuff, man, let them do them. That's cool. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stop them from having a great time. It doesn't really bother me too much like that.
Man, you really hit it on the head there, Chris. We need each other in this process, right? And I kind of want to end there and wrap things up because I feel like we're at a good stopping point. Look, if anybody needs help today and they've heard a message of recovery, reach out, man. If you go to the A.live Panda page, there is a A.live hotline. You can reach out to me there personally. I can help get you the resources you need to maybe get into treatment, whatever it may be, or if you just need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you. I can put you into contact with Chris, I'm sure, if you need somebody to talk to, if you heard something tonight. But I also just want to throw out this disclaimer again, is that neither Chris or I are professionals in this field of addiction or specialists. We are simply addicts staying one day clean and serene in this process at a time with the use of each other, a 12-step program, and a power greater than ourselves. And that's really all it takes. What works for me may not work for you. What works for Chris may not work for me. So you really need to find your own way and connect and plug in with people that have your back, that you feel comfortable sharing your deepest, darkest secrets, things that you are going to take to the grave, and free yourself of that baggage, man. Just get rid of it. So if you liked what you hear during this podcast, again, show some love, hit the subscribe button. Chris, I want to thank you again for joining us on the podcast today. If you were to end this thing out, what would you say to the newcomer?
What would I say? I'd probably say that, nothing is guaranteed. You never know what's going to happen. So be able to really enjoy yourself today. Don't take yourself too seriously. And remember, man, as long as you're clean, the sky really, the sky isn't even the limit when there's footprints on the moon. You know what I mean? But you can go as far as you want to in this process.
Boom. There you have it. Chris K, ladies and gentlemen. And tune in this upcoming Sunday for my man, Brady C, on the A.live podcast. Peace.
Subscribe now at A.live Panda on YouTube.